What's up, carp freaks, and welcome to the first part of my brand new one-part series called 5 Things in My Tackle Box That I Really Like and Couldn't Be Without. That's very much a working title and may well change. Right, let's have a look. So, okay, the first thing that I couldn't be without would be my go-to Hooklink material, which is the Cortex tungsten. Now, I really like this material because it's very easy to use. It's really easy to strip back the coating. You can just do it with your fingernails or with a stripping tool if you lack fingernails. And as you would expect from it being tungsten coated, it sinks really well. Also, I find it has just the right amount of rigidity to be able to push a hook bait away from the lead so that it doesn't all land in a heap. Yet it's also supple enough that if it falls over something on the lake bed, like any debris or anything, it isn't going to poke up. It will follow those contours. Also, I find the nice silty colour blends in really well with most lake beds, especially silty ones. And I use this Hooklink for pretty much most of my rigs that are going to be presented on the bottom, either a bottom bait rig or a pop-up rig, or the boom section if I'm fishing with hinge stiff rigs. It kind of covers everything I want it to do. Now, sometimes when I'm fishing, I like to use hooks, and the hooks that I like to use are these. I've got 3 patterns here, which I'm counting as one item, by the way. I've got 3 patterns that cover everything I want to do. I've got my stiff rig beaked, which I generally use in size 6 to 4, and obviously those will be for my hinge stiff rigs or chod rigs. I like them in the beaked rather than the straight point. Personally, I just think once they go in, they stay in, and that's what I prefer, the beak point for my hinge stiff rigs and chod rigs. For my bottom bait rigs, now I did until recently like to use the wide gate beaks, but one session I ran out and I switched over to the short curves, and every fish I caught was absolutely nailed. Their sharpness is ridiculous, and again, I found once they go in, they stay in. So that is my bottom bait hook. The short curve, again in a size 5 or 4 for 15, 16 mil baits, and I'll use a size 2 if I'm using 18 mil baits. And the next hook would be the zig and floater, obviously for zigs and floaters. It's quite self-explanatory there. And again, I'd be 10 if I'm fishing, size 10 if I'm fishing on the surface, and an 8 or a 6 if I'm fishing them on a zig. So yeah, those are my 3 hooks that I couldn't be without. So having mentioned the zig and floater hooks, the next bit of kit that I couldn't be without in my tackle box are the zig aligners, which I have in a little storage box. I've got different coloured aligners and foams, and over the course of the year, I would say zig captures probably account for more than anything else, especially in the winter and the spring when the fish are just sat within the water column at whatever depth they feel the most comfortable. Those fish aren't venturing down to the bottom to feed, and yeah, there is only one way you're going to catch those fish, and that is on a zig. And like I said, over the course of a year, I probably account for more captures than anything else. I know I repeated myself there, but I think it's worth repeating that to really get my point across. Wouldn't you agree? Next. Okay, next. Forgotten what was next. What was next?
This is a brilliant series.
What was next?
Rigidity.
Oh, rigidity. That should have been number 2. Right, so what we'll do, we'll edit this to make this number 2, because this should have really followed on from the first Hooklink, shouldn't it really? So, yeah, number 2. So my next Hooklink that I use is the rigidity. This pretty much does what, it kind of does the things that the tungsten one can't do, and that's be stiff. As the name suggests, it really is very stiff, very rigid. And I know when I've seen other materials on the market designed for fishing chods and hinge stiffs and whatever, For me, they just aren't stiff enough at all. What I want to try and create when I'm fishing a chod or a hinge stiff is an extension of the hook. I mean, when I tie my version of the hinge stiff, I double over the rigidity, so it's almost like wire, and in doing so it is creating an extension of that hook, and I think the fish have great difficulty in dealing with that. And I absolutely love the rigidity. Like I say, I don't think there's anything else on the market that can compete with how stiff this is. Now, the final little bit of kit I couldn't be without would be my lead arrangement, and I use lead clips for the vast majority of my fishing. And in this little box here I have some of the slick lead clips, which are really small and neat, and then I've got the naked line tail rubbers as well. I do fish mainline straight through most of the time, where rules permit. I don't like to use tubing or leaders or anything like that, so I do fish straight through. And the lead clip, for me, it's the most versatile lead arrangement there is. The only time I wouldn't use a lead clip will be when I'm fishing with solid bags. They're a little bit too cumbersome to get inside a bag. You can't sort of pack it as neat as if you're fishing with an inline lead. Also, even if I was fishing in choddy situations or weedy situations where other people may opt to use a chod rig, instead, I think there's too much movement there before the fish feels the weight of the lead. So again, I would opt to fish a lead clip setup and use a hinge stiff rig on a long boom. That way, when the fish picks up the hook bait, it's in almost immediate contact to the lead to help set the hook. So yeah, that's my final bit of kit that I couldn't be without.